Rex has been telling anyone who would listen for 2 years now at least that Ben Johnson is the next Bill Walsh.
It's been very busy here. We have had no shortage of topics to discuss. So that's how I'll set you up, Greeny. There's so much out there. I've watched Get Up the last 2 days. What are you most hot about right now?
Well, I mean, from a Chicago perspective, obviously Ben Johnson. And I can tell you this. I sit next to Rex Ryan every Monday for years and years, and now every Sunday through this season. His son, as you probably know, was on the Detroit staff offensively. Rex always jokes he's an offensive coach, so he's out of the will, which is his standing joke. But his son, Seth, has been on the offensive staff with Ben in Detroit for the last several years. And Rex believes, so I'm just passing this along, Rex has been, what's the word I'm looking for? Singing praises is not nearly strong enough a word. Rex has been telling anyone who would listen for 2 years now at least that Ben Johnson is the next Bill Walsh. Now, is he legitimately going to be the next Bill Walsh? I don't know. But Rex raves about him, knows him well, again, based on the relationship with his son, and absolutely raves about him. So I have been predisposed since before the time when everyone was talking about Ben Johnson as the assistant everyone wanted. I have been predisposed to think whoever gets that guy is going to be incredibly happy about it. So when I saw the way things seem to be breaking at the end of the season, I thought this, I think, is the best thing that could possibly have happened for the Bears and my beloved adopted hometown of Chicago. So that, to me, is overwhelmingly the number one thing. I think if you were looking for the best thing that could have happened to Caleb Williams, and thus the best thing that could have happened to Chicago Bears fans, I think it happened.
Mike, knowing the organization the way that you do and having covered them over the course of, X number of years, how surprised are you that they were willing to write the check that it took to hire Ben Johnson?
I mean, look, it's been a really long time since I was there day in, day out. I know that reputationally that has been the case, but the reality is they needed this. Every now and again, franchises sink to a place where the only thing worse than spending money is embarrassment. I know this intimately because the New York Jets, who I follow, intimately, are in a very similar position. The Bears drafted Caleb Williams. They did the thing that all of us, I mean, you guys, obviously, I wasn't the only person saying this, but you'll remember I was jumping up and down, screaming. Not because I thought Matt Eberflus was the worst coach of all time or I had any knowledge of that, but you cannot keep a lame duck coach and draft the quarterback first again. You can't do it. You did it to Mitch Trubisky. You did it to Justin Fields. You can't do this again. I was begging them from a distance not to do it, and they did the thing everyone knew they shouldn't do, and it went exactly the way everyone feared that it might. In fact, it was worse. Whatever we were hoping it might be, or whatever we were afraid it might be, it wound up being even worse than that. So I think when you hit rock bottom, sometimes you are forced to do the thing that you are not normally inclined to do. So, look, how were the Bears going to explain to their fans after watching Jaden Daniels just have not only the greatest season any rookie quarterback has ever had, but I think in the team photo of greatest seasons any rookie has ever had in NFL history, right there with Jim Brown and Gale Sayers and Lawrence Taylor and Randy Moss, I think you put Jaden Daniels' season. So that was the guy who got drafted after you into a situation that everyone said was way worse. Everyone said your situation was 100 times better than that situation, and there was that kid playing in the NFC Championship game, and you fired your coach after Thanksgiving. So that's the definition of hitting rock bottom. However, at the same time, it is an attractive situation. If you're Ben Johnson, I can see why you want it. The only downside of it, in theory, is the division. And look, Detroit's going to get worse now. They lost both their coordinators. Jordan Love, at least at this moment, doesn't look like he's as good as I think a Bears fan would have had reason to fear he was going to be. And who else? Minnesota, we'll see. That felt a little bit like smoke and mirrors. So in every other way, this was by far the best of the vacancies, the best situation you could have gotten. So in that regard, I'm not surprised that he took it, and I'm definitely not surprised that they did whatever they had to do to get him.
I know you do a lot of rooting for the Bears because of the family connections. But if this was your number one team, like if everything was the same, but they had the Jets logo on them, and what happened to Caleb was your quarterback, and what happened to Jaden was still the Commanders' quarterback, and it was 1-2, how would you rationalize it in your brain over the quarterback situation after 1 year?
So that's an excellent question. There are multiple answers. One of them is that it doesn't make any difference how good Jaden Daniels is anymore. Like, that no longer matters. Yes, they will always be compared to each other, but it no longer matters how good he is. Now the only thing that matters is making Caleb the best he can be. Whether that winds up being better than Jaden, equal to, or worse than, at this point, that's not really the issue. Nothing is going to make you go back and undo that. Unlike Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes, this is not that situation. Caleb is good. I think you can see it. Now, you guys might have a different opinion. You're watching it snap in, snap out, and I'm not. I hear some of my analysts suggesting, the guys who really know quarterback play, that there are things that they're concerned about. But I think he had no chance. I think he walked into a situation in which he had no chance. Keeping Matty Eberflus was a terrible decision. Hiring Shane Waldron was an even worse decision. So those guys are gone now. You start all over again. Hopefully you have not done any damage that cannot be undone. You've got a guy who has a proven track record of being an offensive genius, and let him go to work. I would remain. Look, my natural inclination is to be pessimistic when it comes to the things I care the most about. So maybe this is a dishonest answer to your question the way you phrased it. But what I'm saying to you is, if I'm a Bears fan right now, I'm optimistic. I think the quarterback has a chance to be great. This year did not change my opinion on that. Yeah, and I think the coach has a chance to make him great.
We're in the same boat on that. Like, I feel the same thing. I feel, all things considered, Greeny, based on everything he went through that you were just mentioning, a lot of other and you've been singing this from the mountaintops too, for years, about more quarterbacks are ruined than developed. That other quarterbacks who are less talented would have been completely chewed up and spit out. Like, at least Caleb still had lots of good moments, brought them back in the fourth quarter multiple different times. On paper, it wasn't the worst. There are things he needs to work on, no doubt. You're in denial if you don't see that. But I think, all things considered, he showed you that he can be really, really good.
He's so gifted. I mean, I'm obviously not saying anything that anyone with eyes can't see, but he's so gifted. He's like a beautiful. He's like they need a sculptor, right? He's like he's incredibly good clay, and you need someone to come in and sculpt him into the best player he can be. It doesn't have anything to do with Jaden. It doesn't have anything to do with Drake May, who, by the way, I've got a lot of people who think he is unbelievably good. Doesn't have anything to do with what Bo Nix did with Sean Payton. This is just about how good we can make him here and now. And I think, all things considered, from the moment the season ended, things could not have gone better, at least from the vantage point that I'm sitting at, than they've gone so far. Let's be happy with that and pick it up and go from there.
Our buddy Mike Greenberg, Greeny, joining us, Waddle and Silvy on ESPN 1000. If you were the Bears and you knew that at the very least you needed 3 new offensive linemen, maybe 4, would you still make a call to Cleveland about Myles Garrett to rush the passer?
I hadn't thought about that. So,
it's just a phone call.
Not.
It's just a phone call. They can't get,
Yeah, you can make. I mean, you're sure you can make a phone call, but I don't think I would do it, because I think the most important thing the Bears have to do is make Caleb Williams the best quarterback he can beat. Look, if you're Washington right now, if you're Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, you're going to be good for 15 years. 15 years. Guaranteed. That's what you want. That's what you're hoping to turn Caleb Williams into. Not that you're going to win a Super Bowl. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But first, we got to make him the kind of quarterback that you say, if he's our quarterback, we're good. Now it's just a question of putting the right pieces around him to become great. But we're good because we have him. That's what you have to do. And Myles Garrett might help you win games. And, yes, a great defense will help a quarterback, all those things. But I would be focused, to your point, on getting him protection, getting him whatever the right parts are that Ben Johnson wants to put into place in his offense, all that stuff. I would be focused on that. Myles Garrett is going to be very, 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 very expensive. And if I'm the Bears, as great a player as he is, and obviously he is great, I don't think that's where I would be putting that many resources right now.
How about if the call was made to the Dallas Cowboys for Micah Parsons, who's 2.5, 3 years younger? Same theory? Same thoughts?
I mean, look, he is awesome. He's incredible. He's a little bit of a he needs to stop talking, and he's not going to. And so you no. The answer is no. Like okay. Look, you tell me right now. Is Micah Parsons? If the Bears had Micah Parsons on their roster next year, does that mean they're going to win the Super Bowl?
No.
No, that's what I mean. So I want to make Caleb Williams a great quarterback, and then I'll figure out how to win the Super Bowl. Bringing in Micah Parsons is a move that you make. Like the Jets brought in Aaron Rodgers because they thought they were Aaron Rodgers away from winning a championship. You pay a fortune to get Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett is going to cost like multiple picks and players. I don't think they're in a position, personally, I don't think they're in a position to do that right now for either one of those. I think there are really good offensive linemen in this draft, a bunch of them. I would take 2 of them. I would sign another, and I would go from there.
How about Sunday's game? Do you have Chiefs fatigue, or are you a fan of dynasties in sports?
No, listen, I am absolutely floored by some of the stuff I hear with the Chiefs. I don't know where you guys stand on this, but here's my perspective. As one, and Silvy, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I covered the Chicago Bulls in the 90s every single day for home and road for multiple years. Not for all 6 championships. I was there for the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, with the 2 years in between that Michael wasn't there. So the 92 title, the 93 title, the 96 title. I never got tired of it. I never got tired, and I'm not a Bulls fan. I wasn't a Bulls fan then. I never at any point got tired of watching something better than anything I'd ever seen before. We're watching we're watching the closest thing that we're going to get to Michael Jordan and Patrick Mahomes. He's that good. I've done these essays on TV. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but the parallels are eerie. What he has done to Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow is exactly what Michael did to Charles and Patrick and Karl Malone. Malone went 0-2 in the finals against Jordan. He was MVP of the league one of those years. Charles Barkley ran into Jordan in the finals. Michael averaged 41 points a game in that final, which remains the best in any finals in history. Ewing played Jordan in the playoffs 5 times. Jordan beat him all 5. That's what Patrick Mahomes is doing. He is Michael. Michael became Michael when he three-peated. Mahomes could three-peat. The idea that people are tired of seeing this does not compute in the mind of someone like me who loves sports and appreciates sports history. Second, the whole thing about the calls, my response to people who were complaining that Kansas City gets calls is, did you just start watching sports last week? Superstars get calls. They always have. When Michael was at his apex, okay, you guys know that I'm from New York. You guys know that I come from a New York sports-loving family. My parents had a Go New York, Go sign in the window of their store that they owned at the time that the Knicks and Bulls were playing those legendary series. And I'm covering the Bulls for a Chicago radio station and hearing from my parents every single day, Michael, you know that Jordan gets every call. He pushes off. He gets every single call constantly. That's what people were saying then. And Michael's response, because I asked him about it once, was, so? Stars get called. That's the way sports have always been. It's the way they will always be. They changed a rule in the NFL one year because Tom Brady got hit in the knee, and it cost him a season. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. There's no difference. This is not new. This is not cheating. It is definitely not fixed or rigged or any of that. So I myself am not the least bit tired of the Chiefs, and I'm hoping that they win because they're playing the Eagles, and I can't root for them no matter how hard I try.
Do you want to see, though, do you want to see them change the way they review some of these calls, though? Like, for instance, when Aikman had that great point a couple of games ago when Mahomes was running out of the pocket and got down late, and then there was the roughing call or unnecessary roughness. Again, he called it like playing around with the defenders. That shouldn't be a penalty, and there should be a way you could challenge that. Would you like to see some changes, not just for Mahomes, but for the entire league?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I see what everyone else sees. Don't get me wrong. I'm not acting like I don't see it. I'm just saying this has been a part of sports for a long time. I don't like it. I don't know that anyone is supposed to like it. I'm merely saying people are acting like this has never happened before. This is unheard of. So, yes, I thought Troy was 100% right in what he said. I don't like that. I don't like the way Mahomes and other quarterbacks do it too, but he does it particularly effectively. Like tiptoes along that sideline and waits to the last possible second and then steps out of bounds and tries to draw a hit and then flops. The whole concept of flopping in the NBA and everything else drives me crazy. Yeah, I don't like it. In fact, I think it should be a penalty. I've always thought flopping should be a penalty in the NBA. I know they try to call it with very, very limited success. I think that there should be discouragement of all of that stuff in the NFL. So absolutely I would be in favor of all of that. I don't know how many of those things would be overturned by review, by the way, because there's a lot of letter of the law stuff going on that you would sort of have plausible deniability. I think of all the calls on Mahomes, at least in the two playoff games, there was really only one that I thought would have unquestionably been overturned by instant replay. But yes, the answer to your question, Sylvie, is yes. I would be in favor of that for sure.
All right, you brought the Bulls up, Greeny. So you were all over the Luka story and continue to talk about it. It still continues to shock us that they traded Luka. Wendy's done a good job of putting some context behind it. Scale of 1 to 10, though. And this goes into your Bulls thoughts that you were saying. Jerry broke up the Bulls dynasty in '98. Now, I get it. They were older, but still, they won 6 in a row, and you had Michael Jordan and Scotty, and he chose to just wave the white flag and to give up on defending that title. Scale of 1 to 10, the craziness of the owner breaking that up, compared to scale of 1 to 10, the craziness of the Mavericks trading Luka in his young prime.
The Bulls, if the Bulls are a 10, Luka's a 1. I mean, the Bulls chose not to defend the greatest dynasty, what could have been the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. I mean, look, Last Dance was maybe the best thing ESPN has ever done. But what it didn't do is tell the story of why it happened. And I think there was just something combustible. You know, I was with those teams back in those days, Sylvie. You were around those guys. I obviously was never around the Beatles, but that's what I would imagine it would have been like around the Beatles. I've never experienced, to this day, I've never experienced anything in or outside of sports like it was around those teams and around Michael in particular then. I don't know that we'll ever really fully understand all of the psychology that went into all of that stuff, why they felt the need to do it the way they did, what exactly the interpersonal issues were. There was obviously the Reinsdorf element of it and the Krause element of it and the Phil element of it and the Michael element of it and the Scotty element. You got that's 5 huge personalities, 5 huge egos, and it all just blew up. So in terms of magnitude, that was 100 times bigger than this. I mean, this is a startling move because you have a 25-year-old superstar who, even if he isn't in the best shape he could be in, and even if there are questions about his attitude, has still been first-team All-NBA 5 consecutive years and led his team to the finals last season. So, I mean, I find it a stunning and impossible to defend move on their part, with the exception of the fact that there just obviously are things there that we don't know. And I think that is also the explanation of the Bulls. The stuff that wasn't in Last Dance, stuff that happened that we'll never know what it was. It'll go to the graves of all of those guys. But in terms of magnitude, breaking up the Bulls is bigger than, I guess, than anything I guess you would have to say it's bigger than anything that I've ever seen in sports.
What was the part of the Luka trade that maybe surprised you most? Was it that it was basically it was a singular conversation with just the Lakers, and they did not open up this kind of bidding to anybody else?
That was, I mean, look, nothing about it works for me. I'm flabbergasted by it from a Mavericks perspective. From a media perspective, by the way, the fact that it broke the way it did and that literally no one had an inkling it was coming is incredible. That in the modern day and age, Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka were able to do that without anyone knowing. I mean, without LeBron knowing, without Shams knowing, without any of those kind of people finding out. It's just it blew my mind. I'll tell you how I found out about it. It's a quick funny story. So this Sunday was the first Sunday I've been off since Labor Day. Right? The first Sunday I didn't have to work. So I woke up and I try to make an effort on days that I'm not working not to look at my phone immediately. I just, whatever. So I go down. There's a Starbucks across the street from my apartment. I get myself coffee. I come back to the apartment. I'm going to make myself a little breakfast. And the doorman says to me, "How about that trade?" And I said, "What trade?" So my doorman looks at me like,
he scooped
"Aren't you supposed to be the freaking sports guy?"
Yes, that's great.
So my doorman scooped me. His name is Tim. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Luka Doncic got traded yesterday." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Okay." This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, obviously. I get in the elevator, I go upstairs, and I grab my phone, and the rest is history. So there were a million things about it that surprised me. But the biggest one of them is, right now, if you were starting a franchise, if I told you guys, you're starting an NBA team, and you can choose from every human being currently walking the face of planet Earth to start your team with, he would be in your first 5 picks.
Sure.
He's not even 26 years old. And you traded him for an older, injury-prone, very, very, very good, but limited player. And by limited, I mean, I know they won a title in the bubble, but the words Anthony Davis is the primary reason a team won an NBA championship have never and will never be spoken, in my opinion. And that is not the case with Luka at all, I don't think. So to me, it was a startling and terrible move by the Mavs. I guess time will tell.
Before we let you go, Greeny, you signed off the radio show here in the last week or two. And you said that this is not a goodbye forever. When do you think that you will do radio again, if ever? And how much does it hurt to not do radio? Because I know you're slammed with TV.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's where I started. It'll always be, it'll always feel like home. It's the most fun I have doing anything, frankly. That show that we had put together over the years with Hembo and Cam and Bubba, and I really enjoyed it. But there were just only so many hours in a lifetime. They came and asked me to do the football show, and that came kind of out of nowhere. And so there just wasn't time to readjust it. So this fall just wasn't what it was. And I know better than anybody, and you guys know, if you're going to do a daily radio show, then people expect you to be there every day as well. They should. You have to be able to make the commitment. I just am not able to do it right now. So it was the right thing to do to step away, and it just took a very long time to do it because for understandable reasons, they didn't want to just announce, okay, Greeny's leaving. They wanted to announce what is going to be replacing me and all of that, and that took a while to get done. So everyone went into it with the best of intentions, and it just played out the way it played out. As far as when, I have no idea. Well, what I would say is right now I really enjoy what I'm doing. I love doing the football show. I love doing Get Up. I would say there will come a time in my life when I want to start slowing down a little. I have no idea when that'll be. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 15 years from now. I really don't know. Right now I feel great. I feel healthy. I feel I'm having fun. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I don't have any intention of beginning the process of slowing down. Whenever I do, I feel like that could be a great place to wind up, to sort of end a career. With a daily radio show that I can do from wherever I am, wherever we choose to, Stacey and I choose to live at that point in our lives, and just sit back comfortably and just give my opinions on all sorts of things in sports. But I have no way of guessing when that's going to be. It's not going to be in the next year or two. If you told me it was going to be in 5 years, I'd say maybe. If you told me it was going to be in 10, I'd say that feels like a real possibility.
Greeny, great stuff. Always appreciate you, and obviously can always pick up the phone, do a little radio with us. So
anytime.
The open door policy.
Around, fellas. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
Thanks,
There's Mike Greenberg. You get him on Get Up, and as you heard, he does NFL Countdown on Sundays.